On February 25th, the biggest and longest annual military exercise in Asia, Cobra Gold, started at Camp Suranari in Thailand. More than 200 soldiers from the US, Thailand, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, Indonesia, and Malaysia attended the opening ceremony.
We see our increased ability to work together for our collective security and sovereignty, and in every Cobra Gold, we better understand each other's capabilities and build upon our collective partnerships. We've seen this exercise expand over the years, welcoming 7 participant nations this year and 2 that are in a lesser role. And what that does is increase our collective capability to go together.
The exercise began in 1982, and over time it's adapted to changes in global politics and the growing threat of China in the Indo-Pacific region. In addition to joint military operations, humanitarian aid, and field training, it now also includes elements focused on modern warfare. This year, the US has sent over 3,200 soldiers, and nearly 30 countries are participating, either directly or as observers. The exercise will run until March 7th.
And then I think every year what we try to do is bring in, take a look at what's going on in the world around us and what type of technologies are being brought to bear. But that is why we are incorporating cyber into this exercise, for example. We're incorporating space, we're incorporating unmanned aerial systems and methods to counter those unmanned aerial systems. And that last one is one that we are seeing is very important in modern warfare. All of them are, but that last one in particular.
Another key event to note is that on February 21st and 22nd, 3 Chinese Navy ships suddenly entered the Tasman Sea, which lies between Australia and New Zealand, and conducted 2 live-fire drills. As a result, 49 commercial flights had to change their routes. Australian officials mentioned that it's very uncommon for military ships from non-allied countries to enter these waters, so this incident was quite shocking for both Australia and New Zealand. On February 22nd, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said in a press conference that China did not provide a satisfactory explanation for the live-fire drills.
We believe it would be appropriate to have been given more warning of this potential event taking place. But I can confirm also that there has been no danger to Australian assets as a result of this action in China.
On February 26, New Zealand's Foreign Minister Winston Peters told reporters after meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi that this incident revealed a weakness in the relationship between the two countries.
Well, we placed it in the context of, look, we've had this special relationship, which was first begun in 2008 and expanded upon. We're in our second decade of this arrangement, and this is a failure in it at this time, and we'd like to have it corrected into the future.
The director of the Strategic and Resource Department at the Taiwan National Defense Security Research Institute also analyzed that this military exercise is seen as an important symbol of the Chinese Navy's global expansion and could change the security situation in the South Pacific. Strategically, China's actions are aimed at responding to Australian military planes patrolling the South China Sea. The approach is a "you come to my house, I'll come to yours" tactic. By sending warships to New Zealand for a show of force, China is sending a message to Australia to stay out of the South China Sea matters. Another part of China's long-term strategy is to set up military bases in the second island chain. In response to China's live-fire drills, both Australia and New Zealand have strongly reacted, showing their concerns about China's growing military power. However, Beijing has ignored their reactions, accusing them of unfair criticism and deliberately making a big deal of it. The Chinese state-run Global Times even quoted military experts saying that China's military should conduct more exercises in distant waters to help the international community get used to it. If Western countries get used to this approach, it could become a new normal. Chinese military ships appearing in waters around Australia is not a new occurrence. There have been similar incidents over the past 4 years. For example, when Australian Navy patrol planes monitored Chinese ships in northern Australia, they were even targeted with a laser by China. Shen Mingxi, a researcher at the Taiwan National Defense Security Research Institute, explained that in the past, China's Navy only reached as far as Hawaii when breaking through the second island chain, usually for routine maritime rescue exercises. This latest action, however, is very different from what has happened before. Recently, the US, Japan, Australia, and the Philippines held exercises in the South China Sea. China's military drills, on the other hand, are meant to showcase its power and send a warning to Australia. Instead of just stopping Australia from intervening, China can next time bring its military ships closer to Australia, preventing its navy from going out to sea. This would have a big impact on the cooperation between the US, Japan, Australia, and the Philippines, or just the US, Japan, and Australia. Shen Mingxi also said that although only 3 Chinese warships were involved this time, if Australia and New Zealand don't take a strong stance, next time it could involve an entire aircraft carrier strike group, which would have serious consequences. This incident has made countries in Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia more aware of China's intentions and capabilities. It's likely that in the future, more NATO countries' warships will come to the Western Pacific to hold joint exercises with countries like Japan, South Korea, and Australia. Especially New Zealand, which tends to stay behind Australia. Even if it faces economic sanctions from China, New Zealand doesn't want to take a tough stance against China. However, after this incident, I personally believe that New Zealand will focus more on strengthening its naval capabilities. This is because if China can reach that area, it could potentially carry out maritime blockades, disrupting New Zealand's imports and exports. The impact of this is that both Australia and New Zealand are now more aware of the situation. It's no longer just about sending forces to the Western Pacific to assist the US, but rather China's expansion could soon bring threats or even attacks right to their doorsteps. So why is China expanding its navy globally? What specific projects are involved? An article from the Epoch Times titled "The Secrets Behind China's Global Military Expansion" explains that over the last 2 decades, China's government has invested billions of dollars into developing countries, funding many port construction projects under the banner of global development. Now China is trying to turn these commercial ports, which it has invested in and built abroad, into new overseas military bases, thereby expanding its military presence worldwide. Data, a well-known think tank based in Virginia, analyzes government spending on international development projects. Their latest report reveals that from 2000 to 2023, the Chinese government spent an astounding $29.9 billion through loans and grants on 123 projects across 78 ports in 46 low- and middle-income countries. These projects were all directly funded by the Chinese government or state-owned companies. Some of the key projects include 1. Building military bases in the Indian Ocean Pacific region. Over the past 2 decades, Beijing has invested more than $2 billion in Sri Lanka's Hambantota International Port, making it the largest single port investment. China has also invested over $430 million in the nearby Colombo port, which can offer similar military support facilities. Both of these projects position China as a direct competitor to India in the region. In Pakistan, China invested about $577 million in the port of Gwadar. This port is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, expanding into the Middle East and enhancing China's control over the critical Strait of Hormuz. Additionally, Beijing has invested $97 million in Luganville Port in Vanuatu, located near Australia. The construction of this base will help China bypass the containment efforts from the US and its allies in the region. China is also expanding the Ream military base in Cambodia. The expansion and modernization will allow the base to accommodate ships 5 times larger, going from 1,000-ton ships to 5,000-ton ships. While the base may not be large enough to accommodate China's newest 055 class missile cruisers, it will be able to host smaller to medium-sized warships, including those equipped with anti-ship missiles and electronic warfare systems. 2. Building military bases in Africa. China has invested $6.9 billion in port projects across 9 West African countries, including Angola, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, Nigeria, and others. This investment, including cash and other resources, shows that China's expansion in the region is moving forward in a planned and steady way. Some key projects include spending over $659 million to upgrade the Port of Bata in Equatorial Guinea and over $1.3 billion to modernize the Port of Kirby in Cameroon. This port has deep waters and large docks, making it capable of docking China's largest warships. Finally, let's take a look at the analysis of China's global naval expansion goals by Professor Mingzhu Zheng, a distinguished political science professor at National Taiwan University. China's overseas military bases are strategically placed. Many are located in important areas, often near U.S. military bases. For example, in Djibouti, Africa, both China and the U.S. have military bases right next to each other. This shows that China carefully chooses its base locations. They don't need many, but the ones they have are well chosen and effective. China's expansion is also supported by projects like the Belt and Road Initiative, as well as investments in international ports and infrastructure. When you add China's growing focus on nuclear weapons, space warfare, and space-based weapons, it's clear. China is in an arms race with the US. Though it's not openly discussed, everyone knows it's happening. This is indeed an arms race. If China didn't have big ambitions, why would they be building the largest military in their history during a time of peace? What is their plan? This is a question many countries, including the UK, are asking. As for actions in the South China Sea over the past decade, China has turned 7 or 8 reefs into islands, making them military bases. Now China is trying to claim these areas as their own internal waters, pushing out foreign ships that pass through. Originally, these waters were open to everyone. China's actions, turning reefs into islands, militarizing them, and then trying to claim them as internal waters are concerning. What are they planning to do next? The world has essentially become one big battlefield. Why? Because Russia is fighting over there, China is making its moves here, North Korea is doing its part, and Iran is also active. While each of them is carrying out their actions, they've effectively turned the world into a conflict zone. So now other countries are just responding to these challenges. China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran have created a battlefield, and now democratic nations around the world are simply reacting to it. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with your friends. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.